Happy Friday, everybody. Whoa, do we have a great show for you today. First off, we're going to be talking about a new study that says that wine and beer actually might be helpful for you as you get older to not lose your memory. Next, we're going to do a Leno burn update. He's out of the hospital, but now that I know what happened to him, I have some serious questions. And lastly, there was a doctor, a cosmetic doctor in Florida that sexually assaulted his patients while they were under anesthesia. What? We're going to talk about that right now.
Live from Lincoln Center in the heart of the Dallas Metroplex, this is Nip Talk, an honest and uncensored show about plastic surgery, health, beauty, and lifestyle, with your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and your co-host, entrepreneur and social media influencer Sarah Bennett. Now it's time to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the topics everyone is talking about. It's time for Nip Talk.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Please leave us a like, subscribe if you like our show. It really helps us out. I'm your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and with me as always is my co-host Sarah Bennett.
What's up?
In the box is the man and the legend, Travis. What's up, man?
What's happening? What's happening? How's it going?
It's going. Just another Friday.
I hear you. Good
Yeah.
morning.
Everybody doing good?
Can't complain.
Right on. So I do have a pretty good story, but before I launch into my random story about family with the recent holidays, did anything Black Friday? Did you guys? You were gonna get a Roomba or something, Travis? Did that happen or
I
what?
did.
You
I
did?
Got a vacuum?
I got one. I actually named her Kathy Linda, so that's her full name now.
Kathy Linda the Roomba.
Yeah, Kathy Linda.
So how's Kathy Linda doing in the house?
She's doing good. I used her twice now. She's cleaned up. She's very quiet.
Nice.
And she's productive. So
Nice.
that's all I can ask for around the house. Quiet and productive.
Awesome, man.
You're just talking about vacuum.
I'm just saying. I mean, that goes for anything, including me. Quiet and productive.
Yeah, right. You don't want something in there like causing a ruckus, right?
Yeah. I stay on the
Sure.
third floor, so I can't be too noisy.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, any shopping over the Black Friday weekend? I didn't really do any.
that. Like I said, last time I went Black Friday shopping, I got a Dyson vacuum.
That was the last time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty quiet.
Yeah, I don't like being around all those people.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
too
really either.
stressful.
Yeah. I didn't really do any Black Friday shopping. I just I don't know, I just have so much going on. It's like I
bought stuff on Cyber Monday though.
Oh, you did? Anything cool?
No, I bought a toothbrush.
I guess technically I got Linda on Cyber Monday.
Oh, I did actually.
Yeah, I got her on Cyber Monday.
I did buy, I think I mentioned this before. I do collect like vintage like music t-shirts.
Yes.
I did pick up 2 vintage music t-shirts on the Black Friday sales.
Okay, cool.
Dope.
Yeah, there's a,
What bands?
one was Megadeth, which, okay, so I'm not a huge Megadeth fan. Like, you know, they're like an 80s like thrash metal band, but like their graphics on their shirt were really cool, and that's some of the things that I look for when I'm looking at vintage shirts is like, does the graphic like really stand out? And so, yeah, it was a really, really cool graphic, and the shirt looks like it's like it was put into a drawer for 40 years. And
Nice.
yeah, it's like pristine, like it's so nice. And the other one was Dinosaur Jr. They were like an alt band from the,
Great names.
yeah, anyway, so like
Sounds
some of
like
the,
a toy.
yeah, so like some of their shirts are pretty iconic, like the artwork. You know, I actually liked Dinosaur Jr. back in the day. Megadeth was a little too, you know,
I've heard of that band.
Megadeth.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I should bring some, I need to like actually, I have so many at this point. I should start putting them on social media just.
When I think of iconic album T-shirts, I think it's Pink Floyd.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
Rainbow and the triangle.
Yeah, so
Is that
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
Another Break in the Wall. That's yeah, that's like the classic one. So it's like the prism and the white light, and then
That one is dope.
that one's really cool. Like that one's pretty iconic. And then the Led Zeppelin with the Fallen Angel, like that one's pretty. I have
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Def
before.
Leppard.
Def Leppard's got some pretty iconic ones.
Who's the band with the lips? Like it's like just a lip.
The Rolling Stone.
Rolling Stone.
Well, Kiss is like Kiss has got to make it, but the Rolling Stones too
Yeah,
have
the
the
one
big
that
lips.
sticks their tongue out.
yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, I got a pretty insane collection. In fact, it's kind of driving my wife crazy because like in our closet, like I just have like these vintage tees like stacked up now because I don't have room for them. But like I don't want to store them because I like to wear them, you know. But
Absolutely.
anyway, I do have kind of a funny story, and this goes back to like being in the holidays and like having family in town. So actually, you know, I have a lot of half brothers and sisters because both my parents were married before they married each other, and so I have a sister, and she's like 15 or 16 years older than me. She's my mom's daughter. And so she lives up in New England and Massachusetts. I don't see her all the time. She was down for Thanksgiving. And so we were just like talking and, having a good time. And she's like, we started talking about like stories about me when I was young. Because I guess,
those are good.
yeah, I know, right? Like, it's like, oh, you never want to hear those. But I guess that my mom used to call my sister when I would do bad stuff and be like, oh, you're not going to believe, what Bruce did. So my sister proceeds to tell me this story about something I did. And like, I literally didn't believe her. I was like, there's no way that this is true. And so I asked my mom, and she's like, yes, this absolutely is a true story. So I was about 10 years old. So apparently I'm a criminal mastermind as a child. So,
Right.
So listen, so when I was 10 years old, we were going up to New England to visit some friends over like the summer. And in New Hampshire, where we were going, it's legal to shoot off fireworks, but you can't buy them.
Oh.
Well, here in Texas, it's legal to buy them, but technically you can't shoot them off in city limits, which I lived in city limits and we didn't have like a farm or anything. So I could buy all these fireworks, but I couldn't shoot them off. So I basically wanted to buy the fireworks here and then take them to New Hampshire and shoot them off, right? It's a good idea. So I told my mom, I was like, all right, well, I bicycled down to the fireworks store. I spent a bunch of money on these fireworks, and I'm going to take them with me to New Hampshire. And she's like, you can't do that. Like, you can't take explosives on an airplane. Like, they will stop you, and like it'll be a big deal. So you can't do it. I'm like, oh, okay. So what I did is I took the fireworks and I literally taped them to my body with duct tape, like on my legs, my arms, and my torso. And then I put on sweatpants, both bottom and top. And I walked through security, got on the plane, went to the bathroom, undressed, took all the fireworks off my body and put them in my duffel bag, and then went back to my seat. And at some point during the flight, I was sitting in my chair and I pulled up my bag and I opened it, and it's just like overflowing with fireworks. And my mom like freaks out. She's like, how did you get through security with all those fireworks? And so I proceeded to tell the story of like how I taped them all to my body to get through security. And I was like, there's no way that that's a true story. Like, so my sister's telling me this, because I don't really remember that. I mean, I was 9 or 10 years old. Like, I mean,
You blocked it out.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
You were under so much stress.
I don't know. I just don't remember. Like, I vaguely remember like times when I was trying to get fireworks up there. Like, that's a memory. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty ballsy for like.
I mean, that definitely would not be able to happen now.
So, yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, probably not. I mean, things were a little bit looser back in. That would have been the 80s, like the mid 80s.
Yeah.
I can only imagine you like 9, 10 years old with these like fireworks strapped to you, and then somebody like walk up to you like close with like a cigarette, and you like, please back up, please back up.
It reminds me of. Have you guys ever watched that movie Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Where they're like smuggling the money and like they're taping it to their bodies. It's like I was ahead of my time, man.
Were you nervous?
I don't know.
You don't remember.
I don't remember.
That's why I'm like, you must have blocked it out because you were under so much stress.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I was nervous or I'm just like, okay, this is just like,
This is who I am now.
Yeah, this is who I am. I'm a smuggler.
Yeah,
I probably thought I was like Han Solo,
smuggler.
because like, as the Star Wars days, and like, I loved Han Solo. He was like a smuggler, and I was like, dude, I'm just like Han Solo, man. Just walking right through security, walking past the Empire
Maybe
with
it's
my
your alter ego. Like it takes over you, so like you just don't remember what you did. That's your alter ego, maybe.
I don't know, or maybe I don't know. I just blocked it out. I'm not sure.
Because 9, 10, you would think you would remember that.
You would think so, right? Yeah, but I mean, I guess nothing traumatic happened. Like, I didn't get caught. Like, we made it. Like, no one stopped us. There was no police, involvement. So, yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was so funny. Like, I'm glad I heard that story.
Bruce Firecracker Hermann.
Yeah. The smuggler, firecracker smuggler.
The smuggler.
Anyway, well, you guys, if you guys talk with any family, you get any good stories, you're gonna have to share them. I shared my criminal mastermind story.
I don't know that I will ever share any of my stories.
Sarah taking it to the grave.
Fortunately, I got my life together and I steered away from my life of crime.
Yes.
All right, well, I guess we'll move on from crime stories to actual medical stuff, because I do have a pretty interesting story. I guess this would fall into a medical 411. And what would I be you guys' hero if I told you that wine and beer actually is good for your mental health? Like,
Yeah.
You think so? I'm about to be your hero then. Because, I mean, we have known as doctors that there are some benefits to alcohol. Because have you guys ever heard of the thing about how small amounts of like wine or
for like cardiovascular stuff?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So actually what alcohol does in certain doses, and they always say low doses, it does it in high doses too, but then you start to get the bad sides of it. But when you have like modest alcohol intake, it actually increases your HDL, which you guys know about HDL. We talked about it the other day. It's the good part of your cholesterol. So when your HDL is high, your risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke goes down. And so alcohol does increase that. And so you always see these articles every once in a while. It's like, oh, a glass of wine at dinner is actually good for you. And that is absolutely true. Well, a new study came out. Travis, they got a picture of it. And this is the Journal of Neurology. And so it's got a big long title. Basically, it's saying the association of dietary intake, meaning what you eat, of flavanols with changes in global cognition and several cognitive abilities. And like in really kind of layman's terms or basic terms, this study is looking at this particular metabolite, and if you take that, does it help your memory? And so that product is called flavanol. So your next question is probably,
what is that?
What in the world is a flavanol? So I do have like a little slide here. So first off, flavonoids are plant metabolites. They're basically just parts of plants. And flavanols are a subclass of flavonoids that have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, which both are good things for your body. We don't want inflammation in our body, and we don't want free radicals and oxidate.
That's like what, remember the last time we talked about supplements, like everything was anti-inflammatory.
Yes, okay, so these are natural anti-inflammatory antioxidants. And there's 4 specifically: quercetin, camphorol, myricetin, and isohamnitin. I probably butchered all those names. I was looking at those like, am I going to be able to say those words on the show?
That's the names you should have named your vacuum.
Would have been terrible.
I'm going to name my children that. That'd be definitely unique, right? This is my child, Myricetin. These look like, they're like Game of Thrones names almost. Lord Camphorol, I'm here for the Iron Throne.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm derailing myself. I'm going to pull it back. All right, so these products are found in various things. Leafy vegetables, fruits, teas, but also wine and beer.
What about whiskey?
So so that was my question, because I like to drink liquor. I'm a bourbon/rum guy. So I'm like, am I getting these benefits from this? And there's a little bit. It's not near as much. Like, it's much better in wine or beer. So I left liquor out of there. So, sorry for me that what I drink doesn't do it. But anyway, so this study, this was a good study. I always kind of like look at research studies with a little bit of a grain of salt, because having been in that world of writing research papers and reviewing research papers, like, there's a lot of bad studies out there. There's studies that have bad conclusions or bad data. This is not one of those studies. This study had like almost 1,000 people in it. So that's a pretty big number. It was looking at people 60 years or older, so an older population, and it followed them for an average of 7 years. So that's a pretty good length of time.
Long study.
So what the study did is it looked at their dietary intake of flavanols and actually broke it down into those separate ones, but I don't want to get too confusing. But it looked at the flavanols and it divided them into classes of people who had almost no intake. So that'd be like less than 5 milligrams of flavanols, like middle intake, and like high intake. So high intake would be like greater than 15 milligrams of flavanols. And so they divided the people into those groups, and then they submitted them to 19 different cognitive tests, and they did that annually. And then they looked at the data. And so the data showed...
It was good.
What?
I said it was good.
It was good. So what it showed is that when you compared the group that had the least amount of flavanol intake to the one that had the highest, there was a statistically significant decrease in the rate of cognitive decline. Because in that age group of 60 and older, you expect that if you test them every year, you're going to see their cognitive abilities go slowly down. That's just how our brains work. As we get older, we aren't quite as sharp as we used to be. And so in the group that had the low rate of flavanol intake, you saw something like this. But in the one that had the high intake, it was more like that. So it wasn't like it reversed it completely, and it wasn't like it, made it get better, but it decreased the expected decline. Which, I mean, that's a pretty notable thing, that, there are certain things that you can intake in your body. And of course, I made this very kind of sensational with, oh, it's beer and wine, drink it, you're going to be better. Because you could really get the same effect from just eating vegetables, right?
Right.
Right. But there are people out there, I'm thinking of like my brother, he hates like vegetables and like fruit. Like I can't get him to eat it. So that's where this study and how I phrased it might come into play. Because, the bad news about this study is that if you were only relying on the beer and wine, then you'd be taking more beer and wine than is safe.
Yeah.
Because in order to get to that highest level of flavanols, like you'd have to drink the equivalent of a bottle of wine a day or 6 beers a day. Which, I know there's a lot of people out there that do that. We have friends who are really into wine. We have people who are in the alcohol industry, and I know for a fact that they're drinking, that much a day, which is unhealthy. To be, just very blunt about it.
Yeah.
But where I think that the average person could maybe get something from this is one, just knowing that these flavanols can improve your cognitive abilities as you get older. You could take away from this study is when I get into my 60s, I need to make sure I eat my vegetables. Or you could say, well, I don't really like vegetables, but if I have a glass of wine every night because I like wine and I want to, get the cardiovascular, benefits from it, then also you're getting the benefits of decrease of cognitive decline.
So just including wine and beer as a balanced part of your life.
Yeah. It's not a bad,
just like everything. Yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Of course, you always have to be careful when you're talking about alcohol, because like the one thing I don't want people to take away from this is like, oh, there's a doctor on the YouTube saying that I should be drinking a lot every day, because that's the, not exactly like, not what we're saying at all.
Right.
And that does bring up a question too of, what is a safe amount of alcohol to drink?
Yes.
That's a question. There was a joke. So I was in medical, and I'll kind of, derail my own conversation again. So there was always a joke in medical school, and it was like, the joke is, what is the definition of an alcoholic? Have you ever told me to tell this joke?
No.
Travis, you haven't heard me tell this one?
Oh, I've never heard it.
The definition of an alcoholic is somebody who drinks more than their doctor. Right?
Oh.
That was like a joke in med school, right?
It sounds like a doctor joke.
It's a doctor joke, right? Doctor jokes are usually
Doctor dad joke.
Not only is it a doctor joke, it's a dad joke. It is. It's a bad joke. All right. So anyway, but we should be more serious about, okay, what is a unhealthy amount of alcohol? And so there is a little bit of debate about that. When you look at different organizations, that number does fluctuate. So I would say, like, if you want to be like super safe with alcohol, like absolutely no, I don't want to say absolutely no risk, but like just very, very lowest risk, then it should be 2 drinks a day for men and only 1 for women. Okay. Now there are other groups out there that say that that is a little restrictive, that, if you want to just, be in the, reasonably safe, because everything is risky, right? Even eating regular foods is risky. If I go eat like a bunch of fried food, my risk of heart disease goes up. And so with alcohol, same thing. So if you want to be like in the reasonably safe category, then it's 3 to 4 drinks per men per day, but only 15 per week, and then 2 for women, up to 8 per week.
Yeah, I'm interested in to see, or just to finding out how that study would be in like Europe, because I know Europeans drink more alcohol.
Yeah, they drink a lot of wine too.
It's part of their
it's part of their culture.
Yeah, it's part of ours too, but more of like let's get
hammered.
Yeah,
yeah.
let's drink wine because it's lovely.
It's funny, and this is actually, I think I've told you guys before, I'm actually a certified sommelier. So I did an International Wine Guild class about wine, because my wife and I like wine. I more like the idea of wine. You
wish you liked it more, so you're gonna try.
I do like it. I like pairing it with food. I like the technical aspects of it, of learning about it, and why is this wine different, and why does this wine taste good with this food, and that one. That really kind of appeals to me. And so we went and did this international wine class. But anyway, so I kind of derailed my own I got off on a sidetrack. I'm not drinking enough alcohol, actually.
You're not drinking enough.
I derailed my own conversation. But no, what I was going to say is that it's interesting talking about like Europe versus the USA. When you get wines from Europe, they are more geared toward drinking with food. We always joke about that, like in our wine group, is like, you can tell like a European wine because it has like a really good smell to it, but the taste is a little flatter than an American wine. And it's because wines in Europe are meant to be paired with food, versus wines in America, you just drink by the pool on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you point that out. But
Yeah.
so I was gonna ask this earlier. Do you guys have a favorite beer or wine? Like, are you guys beer or wine drinkers?
I like beer and
Do you?
wine.
I have a new favorite beer actually.
What?
Have you tried Mango Cart?
No.
You haven't? You should try it. So it's a fruit beer, which I know that sounds, weird to a lot.
Fruity.
It's a lot of fruity, yeah, right. But but it's actually really good, and it's kind of low alcohol, so you're not gonna.
Is it kind of like a cider beer?
No, it's a real beer.
Oh.
It's absolutely a real beer. There was apparently these mango carts in California that would make this beer and sell it, and so this company started making it.
Oh, that
It's kind of
sounds
new.
nice.
But what's funny is
I like
my wife
mangoes.
hates beer, but she loves Mango Cart.
Oh,
Yeah, she
I'll
really
have
likes
to
it.
try it.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty-
like wine. I always buy Josh. That's like my go-to.
Josh,
It's just, I don't know, it's Josh.
is it in a box?
No.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
It's fancy, okay?
Box wine.
Box wine, yeah. I remember
No.
drinking box wine like in high school. Franzia,
I didn't. I drink freaking Keystone.
Boone's Farm.
I didn't drink anything, actually.
I didn't either. I never drank
Never.
until I was 21. Never. Anyway,
Also-
so I did think that this study has some interesting points to it, and really like the real take home is there's products called flavonols. They're in leafy vegetables, they're in fruits, they're in teas. Yes, they are in wine and beer. And as you get older, there's studies that show that if you eat foods that have these substances in them, that it will improve your cognition or at least decrease the rate of decline. So I think it's a good study.
Yeah, hopefully maybe they'll research it more and see if it helps with like dementia and stuff.
So actually, there was a couple, when I was doing the research, I did see a couple things about that. I'll have to dig into
'Cause
it.
my grandma got dementia. It like runs
Yeah.
in the family.
Really?
And I'm like, she never drank alcohol ever, and she rarely ate vegetables.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It would be more interesting to know is if like you have zero intake of these flavonols, like if you see like a dramatic
That's
decrease.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
mean-
my grandma was like a child.
I'll-
When she got
I'll-
older, she would not eat
Really?
vegetables. Yeah.
I'll do a little bit more research. I did see, I pulled a bunch of research articles when I was doing this, and I did see a couple things that talked about dementia and flavonols. So
Yeah.
I'll look it up. So
Yeah.
all right.
Interesting.
Good talk. All right, so gonna move on. This is kind of an update / Nip Tuck 911. I remember we did a few weeks ago the story about Jay Leno, who was burned in a fire. Well, I have a Jay Leno burn update, and I have some questions about his treatments, to be honest. So I'm gonna kind of recap for everybody. So on November the 12th, Jay Leno was burned. He was underneath one of his cars. There was a flash gasoline fire. He got burned on his face, hands, supposedly his chest. He went to a hospital. They deemed him as not life-threatening burns. He was transferred to this Grossman Burn Center, which is like this kind of concierge burn center, which I remember last or however many weeks ago when we were talking about that, I kind of like raised my eyebrow at that because that's not like a normal thing.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that later. But so he was in there for 9 days. He was discharged on November the 21st. And now that he's discharged, there's a lot more information. One, they did some kind of interviews with that place, and I have some pictures of him that I want to show. All right, so picture on the left is his face,
Yeah,
and
his hand is messed up.
yeah, I mean it is and it's not. I mean,
I mean, it looks better, I guess, than before.
Well, I mean, as far as burns go, like that's a pretty typical partial thickness burn appearance. You're gonna have like some discoloration. I can see that he had blisters, but you can see the one blister that's kind of in his web space. Like it's actually pretty pink in there, which is good. That means it's just a partial thickness burn. Likewise on his face, you can see where he had some blistering. But, and here's the other picture too, it's a little bit, further along. I think that's like the next week. You can see that these blisters have just basically turned to some scabbing. And, overall I look at those burns, I'm like, these are not really that bad of burns.
Yeah.
I mean, they're significant enough, because they're on the hand and the face, that does make them, worthy of at least an admission to the hospital to make sure there's not other issues, to make sure that they don't get infected. I mean, the burn severity appears to be pretty minor based on the pictures and based on his course. The location does make them a little bit more, notable just because they're on the hands and the face.
Yeah, because you have to move.
Yeah.
sure that
So,
hurts.
as I learned more about this, I started to ask questions, and really, I kind of am the only one that's asking questions, and so you might wonder, why does no one have the same questions I have? Well, it's because you're talking about topics that are very complex. Like if you go ask the average even doctor about what is the proper, treatment algorithm for burns, a lot of them don't really know. I mean, burns are kind of a black box, and so, I think there's very, very few people that would look at what's been presented and have any questions, but it just so happens that I'm one of those people, that I've had that training and had that experience. And so the first thing I had a question about was the fact that he was getting hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So can you roll that first video that I have? It's actually the guy talking about the treatment.
It's exclusive video of Jay Leno in a hyperbaric chamber undergoing treatment for the severe burns he sustained in that terrible car fire.
When you talk about the hyperbaric chamber, how critical is that in treating Jay Leno and other burn patients?
It helps decrease swelling, it helps increase blood flow with good oxygenation, and it helps decrease bacteria.
Dr. Peter Grossman is Leno's lead doctor at the world-renowned Grossman Burn Center in Los Angeles.
So there was another video too, and I wish I could have found it. I found it when I was doing my first research and I could not find it, but the other one said that he was getting that hyperbaric twice a day. So right off the bat, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, that's really unusual. So I did want to take a minute to talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Have you guys even heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of hyperbaric chambers before.
Okay, awesome, great. So I did want to talk about what hyperbaric oxygen therapy is, and I can actually tell you about it. Throw up that next picture, Travis. I am certified in hyperbaric therapy. Yeah. Well, because hyperbaric oxygen treatment is done very frequently at wound care centers. And so as I've told you guys many times, I've been director of wound care centers for over 10 years. And so I got my hyperbaric, training so that our wound center could do hyperbaric therapy. So I actually can talk, pretty knowledgeably about it. So hyperbaric oxygen therapy is essentially where you put someone in a tube, and that tube has 100% oxygen. So oxygen, like in this room right now, is 21%, just for baseline. This tube has 100% oxygen in it. Also, it has increased atmospheric pressure. So right now we're at 1 atmospheric pressure. In the tube, it's usually around 2 to 3. So not only is it a higher percent of oxygen, it's a higher pressure. So what that does is it super saturates your tissue with oxygen, which we have found does have an improvement in certain types of healing. Not only that, it can reverse certain diseases, and we'll talk about which ones those are. Now, the therapy is a little intense. Usually a person would go to 1 therapy a day, maybe 4 to 5 times per week, and they would do that for maybe 4 to 6 weeks. There's kind of a regimen for each individual thing that you're treating. There are some risks associated with it. There's some straight up risks of things like barotrauma, which means that your body takes damage from the pressure.
Yeah.
Like you can bust your eardrums, you can get like a punctured lung. There is like catastrophic risk. There are reports of hyperbaric chambers exploding because it's high pressure oxygen.
Yeah.
If like a flame were to happen to be lit inside that tube, it literally detonates like a bomb. And that has happened in there. It's not common, thankfully. It's very, very rare, but there are incidents of hyperbaric chambers exploding and killing not only the person inside of it, but people around it.
Yeah.
The other issues that are more realistic, like one, having worked in hyperbarics, like it's hard to get insurance to cover it. Like there's very few things where it's easy to get covered. I'd say the easiest is probably the easiest common thing would be like diabetic ulcers that are resistant to treatment. There are things, and we'll go over the list in a minute, that are a little bit easier. The other issue I have is really the improvements are pretty modest. All the research shows that hyperbaric helps with healing, but it's not like a miracle cure.
Yeah.
When I worked at the level 1 trauma centers where I was running the burn unit and doing the wound care, we never put people in chambers. Why? Because we didn't need to. We can heal them without that.
Yeah.
So I did want to go, I have a video actually. I want to show you guys a hyperbaric chamber. Can you roll that next video, Travis? Oh, thanks. Jeez, I was trying to talk to you. Let me get out of here. I want to tell you about this machine. So this is a hyperbaric chamber. So what it does is it uses increased oxygen and high pressure to force oxygen into the tissues to allow very difficult wounds to heal. It's also used for other things like carbon monoxide poisoning, but here at the wound clinic we use it mostly for wound healing. When the patient's in there, instead of shouting like I did, we can talk to them on this phone. So they get the treatments, it helps their wounds heal, and it's just another tool that we use to help people get better. So that was just me at my wound clinic talking about hyperbaric. It was just like a little, thing I put on.
How long do you have to stay in there?
So it's it varies depending on what you're treating and like the settings, but like 30, 40 minutes. It's not like all day or anything like that. Yeah.
It looks like you can watch TV in there.
You can, yeah. There's TVs in them. Yeah, there's definitely TVs. So I did want to list out like the reasons for hyperbaric therapy to be used, and so this is straight from Johns Hopkins, which I wanted to find the most reliable source because there's a lot of different lists out there. So carbon monoxide poisoning, cyanide poisoning, crush injuries, gas gangrene, decompression, which would be like the bends, hypoperfusion, meaning like acute arterial hyperperfusion. If you have like a flap or graft that's doing unwell, it can help it. Osteomyelitis, which is bone infection, radiation injuries, necrotizing infections like the flesh-eating bacteria. Air gas embolism is also like the bends, and then severe diabetic wounds. So what you'll notice is not really on there is burns. And when I heard he was getting hyperbaric therapy for burns, I was like, wait, what? And I was like, maybe like there's some new study out that shows that that's helpful, because really there's no burn units I've ever heard of that use hyperbarics for burns. And so I did a literature search again, and I pulled up some studies, and you can start putting them up there, Travis. Like the first one, little evidence that burn patients benefit from hyperbaric oxygen, no consistent benefit. The next one says that it's basically controversial, there's insufficient evidence to support or disprove. The last one, current research are conflicting, and it remains controversial. And so these are the current research papers out there about hyperbarics. So I have questions about that. Like for one, I can't imagine insurance is paying for that. I mean, I don't think. I mean, we have problems getting like legitimate reasons covered for hyperbaric. So it's like, are they just doing it as a service? Are they charging the patient for that out of pocket? I mean, I don't know.
That's immediately what I thought.
Yeah, charging out of pocket. Yeah. So so that was my first concern. So my second concern comes with the next part of that video. Can you roll it, Travis?
In addition to his hands.
Is it accurate to say he's had or will have skin grafts?
He has had skin grafts that are not his own, meaning skin that we have in our skin bank from donor skin. That's what we initially do as a first stage.
He says Leno will undergo another surgical procedure later this week.
So I had like a real question about that too. So what he's talking about is human allograft, or at least the way he's describing it. I mean, I guess he could be talking about something different, but human allograft does have a place in burn care. I've used it a few times. The thing is the literature and just like the standard of care for using allograft is it's only used whenever a patient has like a severe like 3rd degree burn and like their skin is charred and you have to cut it off because it's a risk for infection. And then you put an allograft on top of that as a temporary coverage. Like donor human skin won't take like your normal skin.
Right.
So what you do is like for somebody to say, remember we told the story about the guy who had a 90% burn?
Yeah.
We put allograft on him because we had to strip off all that dead skin and we didn't have enough of his own skin to put on, so we put allograft on there in the meantime while we piecemealed his own skin back on him.
Yeah.
That's really how allografts are used. I've never heard ever of anyone using allograft for a partial thickness burn, which is what Jay Leno had.
Yeah, and he had plenty of skin on his body.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. But he didn't have a classic skin graft because he didn't need it. Like these are burns that are going to heal. So why in the world would they use allograft? Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. So then I was like, well, maybe he misspoke. I mean, I don't know. Like it's just odd. Like to me, as somebody who knows a lot about burn surgery, like using allograft for a burn that really is not severe, because like I as someone who's seen horrible burns, like if I was going to rate burns from like 1 to 10, I mean Jay Leno's burns are like a 2 or a 3. I mean they're partial thickness. Like it would be acceptable to go to the OR to debride them. That'd be fine. I mean you could probably do that at the bedside, but for something that's not full thickness to use human allograft, it's just unusual to me.
Yeah, it sounds like they just like do completely different procedures for like celebrities or something. Like, oh, he didn't want to have his skin, like his own skin, like tampered with. So maybe he elected.
Yeah, but the problem is even if you use an allograft, if it's a wound that's so bad you have to put allograft on it, you have to come back and skin graft it. Like that wouldn't. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but like no, the allografts don't take. Like they're just temporary coverings. They eventually will. Yeah, they'll fall off because your body recognizes it's not your skin. Like it's just a temporary thing it acts as the barrier that your skin would act like. And so, yeah, it's only temporary. So I don't know, I just had questions about that, and like I'm probably the only one out there because like in order for anyone to like take note of this, one, you'd have to see it, which I would never have seen this if I didn't do the show and actually look up,
research, yeah.
Well, like, look at plastic surgery stories. I would have never seen that. If I hadn't worked in burn units for 7 years, I wouldn't have the knowledge to question the therapy, and if I didn't have the knowledge of hyperbarics, I wouldn't have the knowledge to question that either. So, in the United States, there's probably a handful of people that would look at that, and have any questions whatsoever. But I mean, I do think it's questions worth asking because the questions I have is like, okay, if he's getting hyperbaric, who's paying for it? Like, I can't imagine insurance is paying for it, and like, are they charging patients for something that, is controversial? I don't know.
Yeah, like just charging him extra for things because he does have the money. Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's my question. That's the question I'm asking. And then the whole part about like the human allograft, like those are super expensive treatments.
Yeah.
Like is insurance getting billed for that? Like and maybe the laws are different in California than Texas, but like if I coded somebody as a partial thickness burn and then tried to use allograft, insurance would kick it back. They wouldn't let me do it. So I don't know. Questions no one's asking. That's what we're here to. I wish they would say. I mean, I have to assume that they're legit, right? I mean that like they're not doing something wrong, but like it just doesn't make any sense to me. I wish I knew more. I should call him.
You should comment on his social media.
Yeah, they would probably shut me down instantly.
Do you think it's one of those things where like you don't necessarily have to do it, but it still could be of some kind of benefit? You know what I mean? Like maybe it won't be like a huge benefit, but it'll be like maybe some kind of small.
So I think with the hyperbarics, you could make that argument. Yeah, you could make the argument with the hyperbarics that, okay, yeah, this isn't the standard of care, but we're going above and beyond.
Yeah, I feel like Jay Leno is probably like, just do whatever you can to make sure this goes away.
And that's totally fine. And even if even if they're charging him out of pocket, but like my one concern would be is like if they were hyperbaric therapy in every single patient that came in there, that's like that's not standard of care. And so it's like, I showed you the research. It's controversial at best. I'd never heard of anyone doing that up until then. But the other one about like the
skin graft.
The skin grafts, I mean, unless I'm just totally missing something, which is possible. Like I'm taking clips from the news, so it's like, I am taking it though directly from what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy doing it. And
I could see the allograft, is that what you called it?
Yeah, it's allograft. Yeah.
I could see that being something to like question seriously because it doesn't take.
Right. It's like, what did they do with it? I mean, I would say, because I'm a research guy, right?
Yeah.
Everything that people do, I'm going to say, show me the research that backs up what you're doing. Everything I do in my practice, whether it be cosmetics, reconstruction, trauma, it's all based on research, right?
Yeah, but the hyperbaric chamber, maybe he just wanted that. Like, I want to do everything I can.
Yeah, I mean,
and
maybe.
It just made him
and that's
better.
Totally fine. I get that. That would be,
that's more acceptable. But I think the allograft.
I don't know. When I saw that guy's interview, I was like, just I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too cynical. I wish they would say. Maybe they'll say. Maybe someone will hear this.
Maybe somebody will
see this and ask him.
The YouTube's on the
We
internet.
have to have a man on the inside asking the simple questions.
Well, you do, right? I mean, because we should police as or whatever profession you're in, you should police yourself. And it's like in the hospital everywhere I'm at, I see these posters that says, if you see something that concerns you, say something. Right. Because there are bad things that happen. There are people getting treatments they don't need. And so,
And the real thing is like somebody like me and Sarah, we don't know like this stuff.
I mean,
so you don't know the questions to ask.
I mean, even I would say 99% or more of doctors don't have the right pieces in their arsenal to ask the questions about that.
Yeah, for sure.
There's just not a lot of people, which I don't know. I kind of, when he was talking, I was like, does he seem like he's kind of nervous saying these things? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Is it a conspiracy?
Is it a conspiracy? All right, so I hope that Grossman Burn Center would say something. I'd love to hear their explanation. Educate us. We'd love to hear.
Just tag him.
I guess we could tag him. Yeah, I'll tag him. All right, let's move on. So, all right, if you like that story, let us know what you think. Well, we'd love to hear what the audience thinks. Let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the last topic. This one is, what is up with Florida? I mean, I swear every single week we have some disaster story out of Florida, and I have another one.
Florida always got so many problems.
I mean, I feel bad for Florida. So there was a Florida, and I am doing my quotes here, cosmetic doctor who was arrested for sexually assaulting sedated patients. I mean, that mugshot, look at that mugshot.
He looks like a really nice person.
Yeah, I don't have to disagree with you.
Somebody told me one time, or I heard one time, that the reason why things in Florida are so wild is because they breathe the same air as the alligators. That was like something that somebody told me. I was like, that's a funny one. I like it. I don't know how true it is, but
Alligators
I
are like
Is that
dinosaurs.
why alligators are so ornery?
I guess.
They're breathing that swamp air.
like it. Breathe the
What are
same
they?
air.
What's like the nickname for Florida? It's like the armpit or something.
I don't think it's the armpits.
Hey, Florida, the armpit.
No, it's the Sunshine State.
No, but there's like a bad nickname.
Oh, there's
for
a
it.
bad nickname?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
The armpit.
It's like, is anybody really from Florida, or people just go there?
That's what I always say about Dallas, I mean, we're all from here, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm from North Texas, yeah.
Yeah, that's really rare, actually, like,
Absolutely.
to find people that live in Dallas that are from Dallas.
Nowadays,
Oh,
it's very rare.
geez.
Yeah, we're the OGs, the 214.
I'm 817.
You're 817?
I'm really Fort
Close
Worth.
enough.
Yeah. Back in the day, there was only two zip codes, or two area codes, 214 and 817. That was
Yeah.
214.
Oh, really?
There
Yeah.
used to not be any
Now there's
area
like
codes.
12 area codes.
I
did
remember
not
when
know
you dialed the phone, you didn't have area codes. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and if you wanted to dial Fort Worth, then it was like
You just
extra
dialed?
money. No, it was extra money.
Oh.
This is like way back in the day. Yeah, there used to only be two area codes.
I just don't remember
It
dialing
was
817
214,
until I got
817, and then 972 came along. That was like a big deal because we had to change. We were initially 214, and then we got stuck in the crappy 972 area code. They're like, you live in the 972? What are we even talking about? Oh, Florida. Okay, Florida. All right.
Armpit.
This is actually sad. This is a sad story. I'm going to be serious now.
Okay.
All right, so this guy, his name's Dr. Eric Salata. He's 54 years old. He's an internal medicine doctor. All right.
So not a plastic surgeon?
No, not even in the same ballpark as a plastic surgeon. And he owns a medical spa in Naples with his wife. Oddly enough, she's a nurse practitioner, I think. And so he was arrested approximately 10 days ago for allegedly sexually assaulting patients at his facility. And so the story is, it was like a 51-year-old and like a 73-year-old, I think, that were having oral therapy, which I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up. It's like a skin tightening procedure, which according to the website for the company, they say that you only need like topical for it. Like there shouldn't be like anesthesia for it. But what he did is he gave them oral sedatives, so like Xanax or Valium, and then he gave them laughing gas. And then in one instance, it says he gave them alcohol.
Oh, wow.
And these patients basically blacked out, and when they came to, he was sexually assaulting them. Like, can you say rape anymore? Like, I don't want to say that, but he was like, he was like raping these patients. And of course, they reported it to the police, and he was arrested. And there is a very, crazy twist to this. So I just saw this in the news yesterday. He's dead now. Like he committed suicide, supposedly. Yeah. He was arrested, and he was released on like $100,000 bond. And they put a monitoring bracelet on him. And what happened was the bracelet didn't move for like 12 hours, and so the police went and did a welfare check, and they found him dead. He was like out. They said they found him in a ditch. I mean, I assume it wasn't on the side of the road, or somebody would have saw him. But yeah,
I wasn't sure if he did it in custody or if he had got released.
Yeah, he'd gotten released. Yeah, he killed himself.
Why was he in a ditch? Maybe his wife did it and threw him in there.
Well, I mean, I guess so. The first
like, no.
article was the first article was what was asking, was there anything, was it like a patient's husband or, something? But the police, they haven't released the final verdict yet, but they think it was suicide.
Dang.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, with every story we talk about, like, it's not just to be sensational. We do want to see, is there anything to be gained, like, from this story? And so, I mean, I guess, like, my biggest take home would be, are there certain things that should alarm you when you're having procedures? And so, I mean, I hate to kind of dog on this group of people, but I do have issue with like doctors who have zero training in like cosmetic or aesthetics doing stuff like that. I mean, you have an internal medicine doctor, zero training in things like, skin tightening, Botox, I mean, zero training, none in their training, zero. And now they're opening up a cosmetic procedure place. I mean, to me, that's a warning bell. Like,
Right.
It's a warning bell for like, are you going to, get bad results more than anything, not are you going to get sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
But it is a warning bell. It's
Yeah.
just something that like, prickles up the hair on the back of your neck.
If they're willing to do something that shady, what else are they willing to do?
I mean, I hate to say it, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, right?
Shady people do shady things. It doesn't matter what.
Man, Sarah, you're talking hard truths here, man. You're going hard. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm dancing around is.
Well, think about that dude that was in Dallas or Fort Worth or whatever,
Yeah.
the anesthesiologist that was doing that weird stuff.
Right. He had a history of
being a
shady guy.
person.
Yeah, right. So the other thing too, like that is kind of a warning with this is, and this goes to like patients being educated, is if you're a patient and you're having a procedure and suddenly they're telling you that they need to give you like, more treatment than you need, then that's an alarm bell. Because the person, I mean, ideally a person who's having a procedure, they should be educated. This procedure needs X, Y, and Z. And X would be, what anesthesia do I need? Well, all therapy is topical. And so at the point that they're giving me like Valium and they're giving me like laughing gas, like, I mean, if you're an educated patient, that should throw up an alarm bell. Now, I'm not at all like blaming these people for this whatsoever, but I'm just saying for people moving forward, being aware of things like that potentially could raise a warning flag that could prevent an uncomfortable. Because the other thing outside of the fact that he was sexually assaulting them is like he was giving them so much anesthesia that they're blacking out. Like they could have had like a respiratory issue. I mean, they could have had cardiac arrest.
And they're older.
And they're older, 70 something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of.
I could see him giving them alcohol because you said it was like a spa. So like whenever I think spa, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
mimosa.
but man, there is just, I mean.
But you don't mix those things.
There's just so much wrong with that. I mean, yes, I've, like Botox parties, you'll see people drinking. Technically, you're not supposed to do a procedure on anyone that's been drinking because, it alters their mental state and like, can they consent to the procedure?
Right.
So.
You get them to sign those before they have them.
See, look at you.
Shady stuff.
Shady stuff. Maybe you're the criminal mastermind between
Maybe.
us. But no.
But I don't smuggle fireworks though.
I know. That would be like prison time these days. Like, I can just imagine my kid did something like that. Like,
Yeah, don't tell your children, Jody. Tell your children.
I know. I hope my kids are watching. But anyway, so yeah, I think in that story there are a couple warning signs. Ultimately when we talk about bad outcomes, where they be people dying from surgery or something horrible like this, like it's like what can we learn from this? Well, be aware of the warning signs. And these ones were subtle, but like they were there.
I have a question. So like, if
Bring it. I love questions.
If you're going in to get plastic surgery, like what's like the most like considerate way to be like, okay, you're a plastic surgeon, let me see your credentials.
Dude, be direct, man. Honestly, like.
Because I know some people are just like.
No, dude, I love.
Not that
I
straightforward.
love when patients come to me for a consult and they have questions, and also when they test me.
Yeah.
Like I think some doctors would be offended by that, but if I have a patient that comes to me and they say, okay, well, I'm here for a tummy tuck. How many have you done? I'm like, wow, okay, this person like really is knowledgeable about what's going to happen to them. And
well, I mean, they should be.
They should be, but most people aren't. I would say
It's too much trust.
one in like 50 patients that come through my office actually test me with a question like that. Like, where did you train? What's your board certification? Like, how many of these have you done? I love questions like that because it shows me this patient is educated and they're likely to have, a good outcome. But most patients don't. I mean, to be fair, like when I do consults, like I go into so much detail about, I mention how many of these surgeries I've done, and I mention my training because I think it's important. And so maybe I'm not getting these questions because
You're already forthcoming.
I'm already
with it.
forthcoming, yeah.
Yeah.
But not a lot of doctors.
I just know that that's how I would feel. Like if I was like going to get a procedure done, I wouldn't know how to ask.
Yeah, I would tell people that if you're going to get a procedure done, ask questions. If the doctor gets upset that you're asking questions, then run away. Yeah, run away.
Well, there you go.
Any good doctor should be willing to answer any question you have and not be offended because you're questioning them. Like, I mean, that's nonsense that you have to have like some austerity around your doctor. No, test him.
Yeah.
That's great advice. We're going to clip that. That's going to be a good clip. All right, I think that's all I have today. I did want to once again reach out to the audience, and if you're watching this, please leave us a comment. There's so many topics out there, and like we try to pick stuff that's like in the news, but like if you want to know about something, either plastic surgery, even health related, we'd love to talk about it. If you see something on social media that piques your interest, leave us a comment. We'll look it up. We'll do an episode about it, and we'll give you credit for it.
One question too, one comment, well, two comments actually from Dwight Crownover.
Hey, what's up, Dwight?
Yeah, he said if you want a great wine, go to Edge on the Lake, and if you like a great beer, Dunkel, I guess is a good beer.
Dunkel.
Yeah,
right.
Dunkel is a good beer.
Edge on the Lake wine and Dunkel. I'm gonna look them up,
Absolutely.
Dwight. I'm gonna look them up.
And then he says when drinking wine, he has a question.
Yeah.
When drinking wine, which are recommended to be healthier, blends, reds, or whites?
So that's a great question. So I can answer you that in that flavonols are mostly in the grape skin. And so that's going to be your reds and your blends. Whites are not going to have that grape skin. So if you're looking for like that flavanol, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, definitely go for red. Great question, Dwight. Dude, that's a great question.
Dude, that was in that supplement I was talking about.
Yeah, grape skins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? We're going to do this. Remember we were talking about the Taco Bell sunflower seeds and you were going to try them? I forgot to bring them. Next week, we are doing that.
I'm so excited.
That's hilarious.
I look at Sarah being excited. This is Sarah excited.
So excited face.
You look scared. All right, you guys. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you next week on Nip Talk.